you ever felt.
Are you listening? Damn.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about my birth story slash pregnancy story slash Pprom story. And Pprom means preterm premature rupture of membrane, but we'll get to that. You'll see what I mean by the time I'm done this story. So I will start with August of 2019. So August of 2019, I joined a weight loss challenge with my friends, specifically August 1st, 2019. And I was just hoping to lose some weight. I was hoping to gain some more energy because I could tend to be sluggish. So, I'm into the challenge. I'm like, okay, I'm losing a couple pounds, but I ain't feeling no energy. So I'm starting to notice that I actually feel more tired. I'm feeling more sluggish. So I'm like, what in the world is going on? And then I'm like, okay, my period's a little late, just a little bit, which is unusual. It was first, I noticed it was a day late, and then it was 2 days late. And I'm like, all right, it's kind of scary. So I was talking to my sister, and she's like, okay, don't worry until you get to 5 days. 5 days? Yeah, you may want to test. That might be a little concerning. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do some things that, could possibly bring it on, such as wearing white pants. Now, ladies, you already know. As soon as you wear white pants, what happens? Here comes Aunt Flo. Now, she could not even be due, but she's coming just because you got on white pants. So I said, I'm going to wear white pants to work. And I wore white pants to work. I was cramping and everything. You think she came? No, she did not come. So eventually, 3 days late, 4 days late, 5 days late. And I'm like, okay, 5 days is here. My sister said, don't worry till I get to 5 days. And here we are. So I get a test, bring it home, do what I had to do. And I remember sitting it next to the bed on the nightstand, and I covered it up with paper towels because I didn't want to see it processing or anything. I just wanted to pull the paper towel off and see the results. I wasn't ready. I pulled the paper towel off, and I saw 2 lines. I wasn't ready. Like, I'm sitting here 39 years old, and you're telling me that I'm pregnant? So I started bawling. I didn't know what else to do, what else to think. I started bawling. After I calmed myself down, I reached out to my sister, reached out to a couple of my good friends, and so it begins. So the first thing I did was I got my prenatal appointment set up. I had talked to one of my coworkers whose wife had just had a baby, and he let me know who she saw. So I reached out to them. I got the prenatal appointment, and I'm thinking they're gonna be like, oh, you're so old, you have to go to a specialist and all this kind of stuff. All this was in my head. Nobody said anything like that. Yes, they did say that I was advanced maternal age, but it wasn't that serious. So they checked me out. They saw the sac, which was good, and said their little congratulations and everything. So fast forward a little bit, I'm 6 weeks pregnant, and now I'm the type of person, I watch YouTube a lot for things. So when I was like 4 weeks pregnant, I was looking at people on YouTube that were 4 weeks pregnant so I could see what they experienced at that time. 5 weeks pregnant, same thing, looking up 5 week pregnant videos. 6 weeks pregnant, looking up those videos. Now, the 6 week videos were scary because people are starting to say, oh, I'm getting morning sickness. So I'm like, oh boy, maybe it won't be me. Maybe I'll get a break. No. As soon as 6 weeks hit, what you think happened? Sick. I was sick. And I mean, my sickness started like escalating. Like, when I tell you I was throwing up every day, and then I was throwing up all day, every day. One time I was driving on the highway, and I had a bucket with me because I just carry buckets with me until my good girlfriend gave me vomit bags to carry everywhere. But I had a bucket with me at that time. And I'm on the highway driving home from work, vomiting in the bucket. Thankfully, it was traffic, so I didn't have to go too fast. I was kind of driving slow, but still vomiting in this bucket. And it was at that point I was like, okay, something's wrong. I'm throwing up more than I'm not. So I ended up going to the emergency room. They gave me fluids. They gave me medication. They also said that if I didn't want to go fill this prescription, if there was going to be any kind of issue, I could get B6 and Unisom. So anybody that's been pregnant, you might know about B6 and Unisom. It was an absolute lifesaver. I'm like, what is this like sleep medicine Unisom going to do with this B6? Like, how is that going to make me not vomit? But it worked. Like something about that combination, I don't know if it's something scientific or something, but something about that combination, it worked. So I recommend that. But it worked for a certain amount of months, for a couple months. But then when it didn't work anymore, I was like, oh no, like what am I supposed to do? So then my doctor recommended another medication, something that started with a P. I forgot, but it didn't work at all. And then after that didn't work, they recommended Zofran. Zofran worked. So I was like, yes, okay, all right. So we stuck with Zofran for the remainder of my pregnancy / morning sickness. So fast forward to later on, around 10 weeks, I had gone to the doctor and the doctor said, oh, you're 10 weeks, you can get the blood test. And I was surprised because I'm like, I can get a blood test to tell me the gender of my baby this early. I'm so used to people being like, 4 months and everything when they found out their baby's gender. But I was really happy because I was like, yes, absolutely. Like, blood test me, please. So I went and did that. And, we found out not too long after that he was a boy. And then also another prenatal appointment close to that one, I was told that I was anemic, which was not a surprise because I just always have been anemic. And I was also told that I need to have a C-section. The reason I needed to have a C-section was because back in 2017, I had a procedure to take out fibroids. And those procedures can leave like scar tissue. So they didn't want to risk anything happening. And I don't know exactly what it is that could happen, but the doctor said something about boom. Like, we don't want boom. Whatever that meant, I didn't want it. So I'm like, okay, C-section me, please. I always felt better with the thought of having a C-section anyway. So that was kind of a relief for me. I didn't want to push no baby out. So that kind of like just relieved me a little bit. So they were like, you're going to have to do iron infusions. So, we'll start them, not too far before it's time for you to go in, but we want you to be prepared. We want your blood to be where it's supposed to be by the time you're 37 weeks, because that's when they wanted to do the C-section at 37 weeks. So I was like, okay, I'll do the iron infusions. They sent me to some doctor at the clinic and they're like, okay, we'll start it at, I think it was like 30 weeks or 31 weeks. We'll start it. So I'm like, cool. All right. So fast forward to the 30 weeks, the 30-week mark. I am at work and mind you, at work, the toilet bowl there was my best friend because like I said, I was always throwing up. So I was always in there throwing up. And I'm so thankful for the cleaning crew there because thankfully they kept the bathroom clean, so it wasn't as disgusting as it could have been. It's still a public toilet, but it wasn't as disgusting as it could have been. So anyway, so I'm at work and I'm doing overtime, which I did a lot. And I got hungry, so I said, you know what? Let me get some Chipotle. I'm craving Chipotle right now. I'm gonna go on DoorDash. I'm gonna order some Chipotle. So I did that. The DoorDash driver calls me and says, okay, I'm outside. I'm like, cool, great. Yes, my food's here. I'm so excited. As soon as I stand up, gush, I feel this gush of water. I'm like, did I just pee on myself? I'm like, I know that this happens, but I didn't even feel like I had to pee. So is that how this works? I'm like, all right, let me just go get my food, real quick. So I'm walking, but I still feel it. I'm like, am I still peeing? I don't know what's going on. Am I bleeding? Like, I start panicking a little bit, but I get outside. I'm keeping my poker face for the DoorDash driver. I'm like, hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Run back inside to the bathroom. And I'm like, all right, let me put this food down. Let me go in the bathroom and see what's going on down here. And I'm expecting to see blood at this point because I'm like, I didn't pee. I didn't have to pee. I know I didn't pee. So I look and I'm just like, it's not blood. All of this is clear. Oh my gosh, my water broke. Like, it's not stopping. So it has to be my water broke. I know the stories I've heard. I know my water broke. So I go out of the bathroom and I see the housekeeping lady. At that point, her and I were the only ones that were there. So I see the housekeeping lady and she's like, oh my gosh, call 911. Call 911. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking, okay, that's smart. Call 911. So I call 911 and then I call Cameron's father to let him know, okay, you're going to need to get to the hospital because like this is happening right now. This is happening. So the ambulance ended up getting there, and they were asking me all these questions, and I am shaking so bad. Like, I can't control my shaking because I'm just so upset, because I'm like, I'm supposed to start my iron infusions tomorrow, and now my water's breaking. Am I going into labor? And I just kept thinking all this stuff, like, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna pass out, like, I'm not gonna make it, like, I'm freaking out, I don't got enough blood. Like, I was freaking out at this point because I knew I didn't start my iron infusions yet. And then I'm also having the anxiety of expecting to feel contractions, like expecting like this big surge of pain that I was not mentally prepared for yet, to hit me while I'm at work. So it was bad. So they ended up rushing me to the nearest hospital, which was pretty much right down the street. So, I had Cameron's father come there. So I got there, they checked me out, and they're like, well, your cervix is still closed, so you're not in labor. So I'm like, okay. So they transferred me to the hospital that I was supposed to deliver at anyway, the hospital that I was already associated with. So they took me to that hospital, and basically they told me, well, ma'am, you're going to have to stay here until, one, you go into labor. Sorry, my battery's like on a disrespectful level right now. One, you go into labor, or two, until you get to 35 weeks, whatever happens first. So I'm like, at this point, it's 33 weeks and 5 days, I believe. So at this point, I'm like, so you mean I can be, no, it's 30 weeks and 5 days. So I'm like, you mean to tell me I can be in this hospital for 5 weeks? So, it is what it is. So I got taken to the antepartum floor, and on that floor, it was really good because they had activities for us so that we wouldn't get bored, because mostly everybody on the floor was there for the same thing. They had activities for us. We were able to meet new friends, and it was just a good experience. The antepartum floor, they even allowed us to go outside if we needed to go outside. They had like a little balcony area that, we could just go sit and get some sun. A lot of times I didn't do that, but the one time I went out there, it felt like it was so bright because I hadn't been outside in a long time. So, but it was nice. It was just nice to have that option to go outside and just, get some fresh air and everything. So sometimes I did that. So we're going to fast forward to 33 weeks. I want to say 4 days. I believe it was 33 weeks and 4 days. I'm laying in a bed. It's like at some point at night, and I feel something that felt like a menstrual cramp. And to me, it wasn't unusual because I'm like, I'm pregnant, I'm going to feel things, And it was just weird because, it stopped. Like, I felt a cramp and it stopped. But then it came back, and then it stopped, and then it came back. So I'm like, this is weird. I'm going to mention it to the nurse just because it's unusual. Like, I know how cramps work. They don't just keep stopping and going. But I'm like, I also know that contractions usually hurt. So I don't know if these are contractions, but for me, it was worth mentioning. So I mentioned it to the nurse. She came in, and she was like, we're just going to keep an eye on it. And I had ended up going to the bathroom after that, and I noticed there was a little bit of blood inside of my urine, and she wasn't super concerned about that. She was like, we'll still continue to keep an eye on it. And then the how in the hospital they have like the 7 a.m. crew and then the 7 p.m. crew. So in the morning when the 7 a.m. shift came in, I explained to them about what was happening. So they said, okay, we're going to go ahead and check your cervix. So they checked my cervix, and they're like, okay, yes, there has been some changes. That's all she said. She didn't say, you're so-and-so amount dilated or whatever. She just said, there has been some changes. So, since you're having a C-section, we're going to go ahead and get you ready. So they started doing all this stuff. They started like wiping me down. They started, preparing me, taking off my clothes, sterilizing my body, like right there in the room, like doing all this stuff. And everything was happening so fast. In the midst of this, I did send a message to Cameron's father to let him know, get here ASAP. Like, this is what's happening. So I'm freaked out. I'm overstimulated. Like, everything was just happening so fast. I was just like, I wasn't crying or anything at this point, but I was like, my heart was racing fast. I was just like, what is going on? Thankfully, when I was in the hospital, they were giving me my iron infusion. So I felt better about that. By the way, those iron infusions sucked. They were like burning my veins to the point where they had to put ice packs on my arm sometimes when they would give me the infusion. My veins was all messed up. They had to keep switching my IV, but it was worth it because it gave me like peace of mind, that I'm not going to die during childbirth, like how I felt when I was at work that day. So I felt better about that. So they're sterilizing me and all that kind of stuff. They ended up calling transport. They took me down into the area that I was going to have surgery in. And well, first they took me into the recovery area, but I started off in the recovery area, and that's where I started crying because it started to really feel real. I'm like, they done moved me out my room. I'm never gonna see my room again. I've been in for almost 4 weeks, and this is it. I'm not leaving here, without a baby, So I was freaked out. I was crying, and then the man, the IV guy that puts the IVs in, and it was a familiar face because he was the same guy that was coming to my room. So he had to do something with my IV, and I was crying. He's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I don't know. This is all happening so fast. Like, oh my God, I don't know what to think." I was just really freaked out at that point. So I just lost my control at that point. It was the Cameron show, and it didn't matter what I think or what I wanted at that time. It was all him, So then they get me downstairs to the surgery area, and they're asking me, "Oh, do you want an epidural? Do you want a spinal?" I don't know the difference between this stuff. I'm sure at the time they explained it to me, and I just was like, "Spinal? I don't know, spinal, I guess." So they started to prepare me for that. They put something in my back that was supposed to numb me. I don't think it numbed me because I feel like I felt everything. It didn't feel good, So maybe it could have hurt worse. I don't know, but it didn't feel good. But hey, it's what I needed to do. So I got the spinal. I started feeling a little numb from the waist down, but then they were like poking me and tapping me, saying, "Oh, do you feel this? Do you feel this?" I'm like, "Yeah, actually I do." So they started like tilting the bed. They tilted the bed, I think down. I think they tilted me down so that the medicine could move around. And then they started poking me again. They're like, "Okay, now do you feel this?" I'm like, "No, I actually don't." So cool. So they decided they were going to then put the catheter in, which I didn't feel that. Thank God I didn't feel it. And I was completely numb. And also, I decided I was going to get my tubes tied during this C-section. Because while I was in the hospital, they were asking me, "What kind of birth control do you want? You want pills? Do you want the Nexplanon? Do you want this? Do you want that?" And I'm like, "You know what? I really don't know anything right now." So eventually I was like, "Tie my tubes." And they're like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "I'm about to turn 40. I'm sure." Go ahead and tie it. This was my first kid. So of course they had to ask me. They kept asking me, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Yes, I'm sure. So, they did that. And we're in the surgery room, and I'm scared. I'm thinking, I'm going to die. I'm going to pass out. Then I went back to that, like, not so much about the blood, but I just kept thinking I was going to pass out. I don't know. I just kept thinking I was going to get dizzy and just pass out during a C-section. My brain just goes crazy places. So eventually they let Cameron's dad in, and I'm like, "All right, talk to me about tacos. This is going to distract me. I've been in this hospital for almost 4 weeks. I haven't had any tacos. I like tacos. So we're about to talk about tacos right now." So we're talking about tacos. I'm starting to feel this tugging in my body. It didn't hurt. Nothing hurt because I'm numb, but they are tugging. I feel them tugging at my organs, pulling, pulling, pulling as they're tugging. I'm like, "Nope. Let's keep talking about tacos. Let's talk about the ones with the cheesy shells. Let's talk about all the toppings. Let's just talk about how great tacos are." So we keep talking about tacos, and then finally they pull him out, and they're like, "He's out." And they open there's a thing between you and the surgery stuff, and I think they either moved it or lifted him above it. Either way, I saw him, and I kept saying, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." Like, I didn't cry or anything, but all I could say was, "Oh my God, oh my God." Like, I just kept saying it over and over again. Like, I couldn't believe, like, in that moment, like, I am a mom now. Like, it is official. I'm not pregnant no more. I'm not about to be a mom. I am officially a mom. So they ended up giving Cameron some oxygen. They put the thing in his nose because, keep in mind, he's still premature. At that point, it was 33, what did I say, 33 and 4 days. So at that point, he's still premature. He needed a little help. So they gave him the oxygen, and then they gave him to me. And it was such a great moment. Like, I was just holding him. Now, mind you, I was scared because I was like, I feel a little woozy. I did feel a little lightheaded, but I don't think I was going to pass out, but I was just afraid to just independently hold him. So they're like, "No, we'll help you," and his dad was standing there, and the nurse was there, just helping me hold him. And after I had that moment, they took him out the room, and Cam's father went with him because they had to finish my surgery. My surgery's not done at this point because they still have to tie my tubes. So, they left. The nurse was talking to me while they tied my tubes. I don't know what we were talking about. Well, I don't think it was tacos, but we were talking about something. And the nurse just kind of kept me company while they finished, tying my tubes. And I remember that part went really fast because I'm like, "Y'all done already?" I'm like, they must have been like, "Shoop, shoop, shoop, shoop," because that happened really fast. So I was okay with that. So and I remember wanting anxiety medicine before this all started because I'm like, this is a lot going on. Like, I don't know if I can do it without anxiety medicine. But ultimately, I decided that I did not want anxiety medicine because I just want to be very present. I don't want to forget anything. I don't want to feel even weirder than I would have felt in the first place. I just want to remember everything and remember this moment. So ultimately, I'm glad with that decision because I survived. I'm still here. Did I die? No, So after that, they took me to the recovery area. And they said I had to stay there just until I was stable because I had to first be able to feel my legs. Like the feeling had to come back in my bottom half, which it did. And then my blood pressure had to stabilize because it was just not. It was just not. It just would not. It was taking forever. Cameron's here. If you hear somebody in the background, Cameron's sleeping. He makes noises in the sleep. So, but so they were like, your blood pressure has to stabilize before we can take you out of here. And I was anxious because they were like, we will take you to see the baby after this. So I'm like, come on, blood pressure, which probably wasn't helping my blood pressure. But eventually, after a long time, my blood pressure stabilized and I could finally go see Cameron. And that was great. I was really happy. They took me to the NICU and I got to see my little baby. And then they took me up to my room and they gave me crackers and ginger ale, all the fun stuff to give you. And I was throwing up. Like, that stuff wasn't staying down. I was throwing up, which I expected it because I know friends that had C-sections and I know they were sick just like that. So I was throwing up and all that kind of stuff. And I remember it was like 1 o'clock in the morning and they were like, okay, time for you to walk. I'm like, what? And I did help that. I hear that walking helps. So I'm like, I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to do it because it had been 12 hours since my surgery. My surgery was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So this was like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'm like, all right, come on, let's do it. So I get up and walk. I take a vomit bag with me because I was just a very vomity girl. So I take the vomit bag with me. And of course, as I'm walking, I start vomiting in the hallway, holding the bag and everything. But ultimately, I'm glad that I did walk because it helped. I feel like it did help. I feel like, the C-section experience wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. In my head, I thought I was just going to have like all this just like horrific pain, but it was better than I thought it was going to be. I ain't saying it was fun, but it was better. Yes, yeah. So the medicine that they gave me, I think they only gave me narcotics for like 24 hours or for less than 24 hours. Like it wasn't even necessary to be on narcotics for a long time. They gave me ibuprofen and Motrin. They alternated it. I think it was like every like 4 hours or 6 hours or something like that. So they would give me the ibuprofen and then, those hours later they would give me the Tylenol and they would just alternate it like that. So, and I remember asking them like, is this going to keep me from being in pain? They're like, yeah, there's a certain like science to it. And this is fairly new, but it does work. Like we use it all the time. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna trust you. And it worked. Like I was okay. Like I never remember a time just being in excruciating pain where I couldn't take it. Gas, yes, that didn't feel great. But it was all right. I was okay. So I was able to move around, take a shower and stuff. And I was just okay. But I feel like, if you do everything that they tell you to do, even though it doesn't sound fun, you do everything that you're supposed to do. They have this little binder that you put around your waist. I put that binder around my waist. I walk like they told me to do. I didn't resist anything. And I feel like that really, helped my experience, So with all of that being said, it was good. That's my 39 and pregnant birth story, Pprom story, pregnancy story, all wrapped into one. That's how my little Cameron, came to be. If anybody is ever scared to have a C-section, I really hope that your experience will be as good as mine. Just do everything that you're supposed to do. Okay, I may have done one thing I wasn't supposed to do, and that was driving. I drove the day I was discharged or the day after because I had to go see my boy. Like my boy's in the NICU, and that's the only way I was gonna get there. And I wasn't gonna call Uber every day, So I drove. I was fine. Maybe you shouldn't do that, but if you have to, you have to, But just continue to do everything that you're supposed to do. And of course, if you have any questions, I'm always open to questions. I'm always open to support and just if you want more details about my experience, I'm here. I don't mind. So, just make sure you share this story with people that are going through something similar. I would definitely appreciate that. And make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the channel, share it, hit the bell so that you are notified whenever I drop a video. All right, I appreciate you guys being here and watching my video. Stay tuned for the next one. Peace.
Right around here. These bubbles are good. CPAP is helping that.
You can lift your arm and then you can hold your baby. Yeah.
I'm like dizzy, so I'm trying to
It's
keep my
okay.
eyes half closed.
See all right here.
Oh, you're so sweet. Oh, I can't believe you were in my stomach.
You want to be in the picture?
Yeah.